Now let's look at define processes. This course is process analytics, and defining processes is of essence of the course. When defining processes, we use three tools, beginning with process map, then moving to value stream mapping, and lastly to be chart. Let us first talk about process mapping. The key question that should be running in the back of our mind when dealing with the process mapping is this. How is the problem related to the process? We defined the process and studied who our customers are. Now we need to understand the process and see how the process is related to the problem and customers. First, let's take a look at process mapping symbols. The flow chart of the process map consists of various symbols. The most frequently used flowchart shape shows an action task that needs to be done. This is represented by a rectangle, yellow rectangle right here, task. The diamond is the point at which a decision needs to be made. Here is the diamond, and that shows that this is a decision point. There are many other symbols for delay and storage and function and end and start and a store, and you can use them. Another thing that you want to look at is arrows. Here, single straight arrow is often used and it represents the transfer between activities by same person or same area. Box arrow, however, indicates physical movement of information, product or service from one person to another person. So if a task is moving to another person, then at the time you're going to use this box arrow rather than single straight arrow. The third type arrow is jagged arrow. Jagged arrow denotes electronic movement of information. Nowadays, we often use electronic transactions, so at the time we want to use jagged arrow. Here are the steps to follow when draw process mapping. It is always good to understand the big picture first. In that sense, we start with macro process, a high-level process. Take, for example, customer order process. We have customer order, and then it goes to payment process, and then order fulfillment process, and delivery process, and receiving the survey or satisfaction survey. So we first think about the high-level process first and put them in this macro process. The second step is to determine functional areas called the swim lane because you can only swim in the lane in that lane and you are not going to cross over to the other swim lane. How many functions or departments are involved in this process that has to be determined and indicated in this process map. In this step, the rows can be the large high-level process such as order itself, order process, and then the second swim lane can be payment process, and third one could be order fulfillment process. The fourth one could be delivery process. In this high level, order process may be the first lane, then payment, order fulfillment, and delivery come next to each other. The third step is to detail the steps. The, the rectangles here, the yellow rectangles, indicate the simple activities consisting of those processes. Receiving a phone call or online order falls to order process in the first swim lane, right? You say here is an online order and the phone order, it could be order receiving. And delivery of the order to the customers belong to the last swim lane. Say here's a delivery, and say you are using USPS or Amazon truck or air fare, it could be delivery process. So you want to detail them, though you give all these tasks and indicate them here, so you know that how many tasks are in the process. Step 4 is connecting the arrows. Once you are done with drawing the activities in accordance with the swim lane, now it is the time to draw arrows. Straight arrow is for transfer of a product, service, or information by one function or the same person. The box arrows mean that a product, service, information is handed to the next function or department or a person. In this map, we don't have jagged arrow, which represent electronic transfer of information. But in this internet era, it's not difficult to imagine that there are many electronic transactions. And at that time, we should use jagged arrow. Let us then try to do an exercise together with this case. Here is a description for the supplier application process. We can follow the process mapping steps and draw this together. You can draw this process using Microsoft Visio, which is a specialized tool for process mapping or flowchart. You can use other app as well. A video for the MS Visio will be provided for your reference. Here is the process map created by me using Microsoft Visio. Start and end is right here. It's a green oval shape, and the order start here. And there are two ways that you can receive the order. The first way is by phone. The second one is by online. And by online, if it comes to storage, it's there waiting to be picked up and processed. And once it comes there, now it moves to the first step, first activity that's receiving orders, right? Somebody receives orders and it goes to creating a packet, and then it moves to review the packet, and reach we reach a decision point here, whether it has missing info or not. If it has missing info, it has to be turned back or communicated with the applicant. If it is filled, everything is filled, then it goes to the next step. If not, it stays there. So I think yes and no should be changed here. So yes, come here, and no there, and that's my mistake. And I'm sorry, there's no missing information. Then now it goes to the next step, deliver to the supervisor, and it's delivered to the supervisor. And then because there are many packets, so there's a storage over there. It's piling up, and it comes to review the packet process, and that's an approval process now. And we are on this approval process swim lane, and it goes to decision point, approved or not. If it is approved, it goes to the next step. If not, it has to be returned to the suppliers. And if it comes to the suppliers, approved, and it has to be delivered to them. And again, it's a storage area, and they review the packet again at this administration swim lane in this function. And then decision point right here, we want to check whether everything is looking good or not. If it does, then it has to be scanned and electronically stored and communicate with the suppliers. If not, it has to go back to this approval process if there's something wrong there, and then it is stored there, move on to review the packet process, and so forth. So this is how you're going to draw your swim lane first, and then start and end, and you put all these activities first, and then you insert these arrows, whether it is a boxed arrow or straight line arrow or jagged arrow. Because there's no jagged arrow, I use this dotted line to indicate electronic transactions. To wrap up, define phase is all about defining the problem, customer, and the process. Remember, what Albert Einstein said, that he would spend the most of his time in defining the problem carefully rather than jumping into the conclusion or solving the issue right away. And we use SMART principle for problem statement to make it relevant. And in terms of customer definition, we want to use Kano model to understand the unmet needs and requirements of the customers. There were satisfiers, dissatisfiers, and delighters. And lastly, we talked about process mapping. To draw process map, we need to think about the high level and the middle level and detailed level and relate them to how problems are uh, related to that process. And that is define phase. And I hope you understood better about define phase through this lecture. Thank you.